All right, so we're diving into mindfulness today,
Yeah,
and you sent over some really fascinating stuff.
I did.
Excerpts from Thich Nhat Hanh's The Miracle of Mindfulness
Mm,
and some classic Buddhist sutras.
right.
And I thought it would be great to kind of see how, like, even the simplest things we do each day
Uh-huh.
can become like these almost rituals
Yes.
if we approach them with more awareness.
And what's so interesting about these sources is how they blend, like the Theravada and Mahayana Buddhist traditions.
Okay.
It's not just about, like your own personal enlightenment.
Right.
It's also very much about engaging with the world
Yeah.
and working to reduce suffering.
And speaking of engaging with the world, there's that incredible story about Thich Nhat Hanh and the angry American man during the Vietnam War.
Yes, the one who was very much challenging him for being in America,
America.
leaving his people behind
Yeah.
during a time of crisis.
It would have been so easy to get defensive or angry in that situation, right?
Oh, absolutely.
But he chose a completely different path.
He did. He consciously responded with such calmness and understanding.
Right.
And later, he actually shared that inside he was battling his own emotional turmoil at that time.
That story is like the perfect example of both the power and difficulty of mindfulness, right?
true.
It's not about pretending you don't have feelings. It's about recognizing them
Right.
and then choosing how you want to respond.
Exactly. And that ties into what the miracle of mindfulness is all about.
Yeah.
Nhat Hanh talks about how practicing mindfulness
Mm.
helps us detach from,
Mhm.
all those negative emotions
Yeah.
and find that inner peace, even when things are incredibly difficult.
And he even talks about this thing called non-discrimination mind, right? Like
Yeah.
reaching this state of unity with the world through mindful practice.
I understand. And he uses that really touching example of translating applications for orphans
Oh, wow.
and connecting deeply with each child's picture.
Okay.
And he said in those moments, there's no separation between him doing the helping and the children who need it.
Yeah.
There's just this pure sense of connection.
Wow, that's a really powerful image.
Yeah,
I'm sure you've experienced this too, right? That feeling of complete absorption when you're like helping someone in need.
absolutely.
That's non-discrimination mind at work, I think.
Absolutely.
It's about recognizing that we're all interconnected and
Yeah.
then acting from that place of like genuine compassion.
It is. And it really leads us to how mindfulness isn't just about sitting on a meditation cushion.
Okay, because most of us don't live in monasteries.
Exactly.
So how can we bring these ideas into like everyday life?
Well, Nhat Hanh brilliantly shows us how we can transform everyday things, like washing dishes, taking a walk, or even just drinking tea
Right.
into these really mindful practices.
Like that story about Jim Forrest learning to wash the dishes to wash the
Well,
dishes.
yes, it's just
Such a simple idea, but it like
simple but profound.
it totally changes your perspective, right?
It really does.
It highlights the importance of being present in that moment.
Yeah.
Without letting your mind jump ahead to like what's next on your to-do list. It's about finding joy in the actual doing right.
Yes.
Not just seeing it as a chore to like get through.
Yes.
I have to admit, I tried that.
Did you?
Washing the dishes to wash the dishes thing.
How did it go?
And my mind kept wanting to like make to-do lists.
I know it takes practice.
It does.
It definitely does.
But speaking of practice, mindful breathing is like
Oh, yeah.
central to all of this, right?
Absolutely central.
So what are some of the techniques that he talks about for developing it?
Well, he talks about counting your breath,
Okay.
focusing on how long each one is,
Mm-hmm.
and working towards achieving a really quiet breath.
Okay.
The key is using your breath as this link between your body and your mind.
I can see how that would like center you.
Yes,
It's like an anchor, right?
it is an anchor.
That pulls you back to the present moment.
Exactly.
When your mind starts to wander.
And he encourages us to practice this awareness all day long, not just during meditation.
Mm-hmm.
He even compares the breath to this fragile thread that when used skillfully
Yeah.
becomes an amazing tool for handling really tough situations.
He also uses some vivid descriptions of mindful walking.
Oh, yeah.
Like imagine you're walking on a country path surrounded by like rice fields and tall grasses.
Yes.
And you're feeling each step as something truly amazing.
Wonderful imagery.
So to understand mindfulness more deeply, the source material dives into some key Buddhist concepts.
Like us.
So what are the 5 aggregates?
Well, think about how your senses, emotions, and thoughts constantly interact to shape your experience of the world.
Yeah.
That's the 5 aggregates in action.
Okay.
Specifically, we're talking about bodily forms, feelings, perceptions, mental formations, and consciousness.
So it's like this constant flow of experiences that kind of make up who we are at any given moment.
You got it.
Yeah.
And Thich Nhat Hanh explains how understanding how they all work together can help us break free from suffering
Okay.
and clinging to a false sense of self.
Right.
He uses the powerful story of Kuan Yin, the bodhisattva of compassion,
Okay.
who achieved liberation by realizing that the self is ultimately empty.
So you're saying that by detaching from this like fixed idea of who we are, we can actually experience more peace and freedom.
Yes.
That's a pretty mind-blowing concept.
It is a mind-blowing concept.
But how do we actually do that in like a practical way?
That's a great question, and it's something we can explore further as we dive deeper into these teachings.
This is all so fascinating.
It is.
And it makes me realize there's so much more to mindfulness than I initially thought.
I think we all feel that way when we first encounter it.
It's not just about relaxation or stress reduction.
Right.
It's about transforming our entire way of being in the world.
Exactly. And these ancient Buddhist teachings are surprisingly relevant to the challenges we face in modern life.
They do.
They offer a timeless wisdom that can help us navigate the complexities of our fast-paced world with greater ease and awareness.
I'm already feeling inspired to bring more mindfulness into my own life.
Wonderful.
It's like a whole new way of seeing the world.
It is.
Finding those little miracles in the everyday.
Yes.
But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's take a pause here.
Okay.
We've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our deep dive.
We have.
But there's so much more to explore.
Yes, there is.
Stay tuned for part 2,
Yes.
where we'll delve deeper into practical techniques and insights from these amazing sources.
I look forward to it.
We'll uncover even more ways to bring mindfulness into your daily routine and discover the transformative power of present moment awareness.
Wonderful.
See you in part 2.
See you then. Welcome back to our deep dive into mindfulness.
Okay, so that idea of non-attachment and engaged action.
Yeah.
It still has me thinking because it seems almost contradictory.
It does seem that way at first glance.
Like, how can we be detached from the results of our actions?
But still be like totally committed to making a positive impact?
It's a bit like walking a tightrope, you know? But the key is to really understand what true non-attachment really means.
Okay.
It's not about apathy or indifference.
Right.
It's about letting go of those like ego-driven motivations and acting from a place of clarity and compassion.
So it's not about like giving up on our goals and dreams.
Not at all. No, it's more about like shifting our focus from the outcome to the process itself.
Yeah.
Because when we get super fixated on like achieving a specific result, we often end up creating a lot of unnecessary stress for ourselves.
Yeah, and we might even like miss out on the beauty and the lessons learned along the way.
Absolutely. And Thich Nhat Hanh encourages us to approach everything we do, whether it's like social activism or creative projects, or even those everyday chores, with this spirit of service and dedication.
He talks about how each action, when performed mindfully,
becomes almost like this sacred act, this ceremony.
Yes, it's like elevating the mundane to something more meaningful.
It is. And this reminds me of his teachings on having like a day of mindfulness.
Ah, yes. He suggests dedicating one day a week
to
disconnecting from our usual routines and immersing ourselves in simple activities, but with heightened awareness.
So things like cleaning the house or cooking a meal or...
Yes, taking a long mindful bath.
Yeah.
The idea is to slow down, savor each moment, and cultivate a deep sense of peace and presence.
That sounds so refreshing.
And it is. It's a way to hit the reset button on your mind and
Yeah.
reconnect with yourself and the world around you.
Yeah.
Now, Thich Nhat Hanh emphasizes not rushing through these activities, but approaching them with a sense of ease and even enjoyment.
It's about being fully present in each action instead of letting our minds race ahead to like what's next.
Exactly. And it brings us back to the power of mindful breathing. He reminds us that our breath is this constant anchor, a tool for returning to the present moment whenever we feel overwhelmed by thoughts, worries, or distractions.
It's like this gentle nudge to come back to ourselves.
Beautifully put. And he offers some very specific techniques to tap into the power of the breath.
What kind of things?
So things like counting your breaths, following the length of each inhale and exhale, and working towards this quiet, steady breath.
Yeah.
He even suggests weaving mindful breathing into everyday activities.
Okay. Like what?
Like measuring your breaths by your footsteps while you're walking.
Interesting. So it's about making mindfulness a part of the fabric of our lives.
Exactly.
Almost like second nature.
Yeah.
This all sounds great, but I have to admit, I wonder how realistic it is to maintain that level of awareness, especially in the middle of like a busy and demanding life.
You're absolutely right. It definitely takes practice and commitment.
Right.
But even small moments of mindfulness can make a big difference in our well-being.
So it's about progress, not perfection.
Exactly. And Nhat Hanh actually compares the practice of mindfulness to training a puppy.
Oh, that's an interesting analogy.
Yeah, he uses it to illustrate the patience and persistence it takes to cultivate a steady and focused mind. Just like a puppy needs consistent training to learn new behaviors.
Right.
Our minds need regular practice to develop the habit of mindfulness.
Right.
And there will be setbacks and distractions along the way.
So we need to be kind to ourselves.
Absolutely.
And understand it's a journey.
Yes, it's a process.
Yeah.
And even when we fall short, we can always start fresh with the next breath.
It's a continuous process of learning and growing.
It is, and the rewards are well worth the effort.
Okay.
As we cultivate mindfulness, we start to experience a deeper sense of inner peace, clarity, and connection.
And I bet we start to see the world in a whole new way, noticing the beauty and wonder.
Yes.
Even in the most ordinary moments.
And our actions become infused with greater compassion and wisdom.
I'm curious to explore some specific practices that he suggests for deepening our understanding of mindfulness.
Okay.
He mentions contemplations.
Oh, yes. Those are really interesting.
On various themes.
Yes, these contemplations are essentially guided meditations that help us investigate some of those core Buddhist concepts and see how they apply to our own lives.
Okay.
He offers contemplations on things like interdependence, impermanence, compassion, emptiness, and non-attachment, to name just a few.
They sound pretty intense.
They can be, but they're also incredibly powerful tools on personal growth and transformation.
Can you give me an example?
Sure. One of the contemplations he suggests is focusing on a photo of yourself as a child.
Okay, what's the purpose of that?
It's about reconnecting with your younger self.
Okay.
And recognizing how impermanent everything truly is.
Right.
He guides you to recall the 5 aggregates.
Right.
Those bodily forms, feelings, perceptions, mental formations, and consciousness that made up your being at that time. It's like taking a mental journey back in time.
I like that, a mental time machine.
Yes, and as you do that, you start to see how much you've changed, how everything is in constant flux.
Right.
And this realization can help us loosen the grip of attachment to a fixed sense of self.
It's a reminder that we're not defined by who we were in the past.
Exactly.
And we're not even who we'll be in the future.
Exactly. And that understanding can be so liberating.
It can.
It frees us from the burden of past regrets and anxieties about the future, allowing us to embrace the present moment with greater peace and clarity.
It's like shedding all that unnecessary baggage we carry around.
Yes. He also offers another powerful contemplation on emptiness.
What exactly does emptiness mean in this context?
Yeah, it doesn't mean that things don't exist. It means they don't have an inherent independent existence.
Okay.
Everything is interconnected and interdependent.
So instead of seeing things as like separate and solid, we start to understand them as part of this vast web of relationships.
Precisely. And that realization can be profoundly transformative.
Yeah.
It helps us let go of rigid views and attachments, allowing us to connect with all beings on a deeper level.
It's like seeing the world through this wider lens.
Yes, and he even suggests a contemplation on compassion for the person you hate or despise the most.
Whoa, that sounds really challenging.
It can be, but it's also incredibly powerful.
Okay.
He guides you to examine the suffering of this person, to see their actions through a lens of understanding rather than judgment.
It's about recognizing that their behavior, even if it's hurtful, comes from their own pain and confusion.
Exactly. And as we cultivate compassion for them, we also cultivate compassion for ourselves.
It's like breaking down the walls that separate us. Yes.
And acknowledging our shared humanity.
Beautifully said. Which leads us to another important theme.
Okay.
Detached action.
Okay, we talked about this earlier.
We did.
But I'm still a little unclear
Okay.
on how to reconcile non-attachment with wanting to make a positive difference in the world.
Right. It comes down to shifting our motivation from seeking personal gain to wanting to serve others.
Okay.
When we act from a place of true compassion, we're not attached to a specific outcome.
So it's not about, like, wanting recognition or praise for our good deeds.
Exactly. It's about acting out of this genuine desire to alleviate suffering, regardless of whether anyone notices or gives us credit.
It's about letting go of that need to be the hero of the story.
Yes, and trusting that our actions, even small ones, will ripple out and contribute to the greater good.
Yeah.
Nhat Hanh uses this beautiful analogy of a pebble falling through a clear stream.
Okay, tell me more about this pebble analogy. He encourages us to picture ourselves as that pebble.
Okay.
Surrendering to the flow of events without trying to control or resist everything.
It's about trusting the process.
Yes.
And letting go of the need to micromanage every detail.
And finding that peace and stillness in the midst of it all.
That's such a beautiful image.
It is. It's a powerful reminder that true mindfulness isn't about escaping the world, but about embracing it with more awareness, compassion, and wisdom.
I think we're starting to get a real sense
I think so too.
of the depth and richness of these teachings on mindfulness.
Yes.
They offer such a profound path
to
personal transformation and a more peaceful and compassionate way of being in the world.
It's inspiring, isn't it?
But I have a feeling there's still more to uncover.
There is. And that's what we'll explore in part 3 of our deep dive.
Okay.
We'll see how mindfulness can be applied to everyday life.
Yeah.
Things like navigating challenging relationships and building emotional resilience.
Okay.
And we'll explore its potential for creating a more just and compassionate world.
I can't wait. Stay tuned for part 3.
Yes.
Where we'll wrap up our exploration of these incredible teachings on mindfulness.
Yes.
In the meantime, keep practicing.
Yes.
Those moments of mindful awareness.
Absolutely.
You never know what miracles you might discover.
Exactly.
So we've been on this journey exploring mindfulness.
You have.
We've talked about its foundations, different ways to practice it, and how it can be like this really transformative thing.
Absolutely.
Now let's get down to like the nitty-gritty.
Yes.
Like, how can we actually use mindfulness in everyday life?
Right, because most of us aren't living in these tranquil monasteries cut off from the world.
We're dealing with the stresses of work, relationships, family, all the complexities of modern life.
And mindfulness gives us these amazing tools to navigate all that with more grace and ease.
And I think a great place to start is relationships.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, they can bring us so much joy, but let's be honest, they can also be a source of frustration.
They can.
And sometimes real heartache.
Absolutely.
So how can mindfulness help us there?
Well, mindfulness can help us approach all our interactions.
Okay.
Whether it's with loved ones, friends, coworkers, even strangers, with more awareness and compassion.
It's like really being present when you're talking to someone.
Yes.
Truly listening and responding with an open heart.
Exactly. Nhat Hanh really emphasizes this idea of mindful communication.
Okay.
It's not just waiting for your turn to talk. It's truly hearing what the other person is saying, both their words and the emotions behind them.
And responding with kindness and understanding, even when you don't necessarily see eye to eye on something.
Exactly. It's about fostering a sense of connection and empathy, instead of getting caught up in trying to be right or win an argument.
I think that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It's like shifting the focus from me versus you to we.
Exactly. He even suggests practicing mindful listening as a form of meditation.
How does that work?
So you focus on the sounds of the other person's voice.
Okay.
The rhythm of their breathing, their subtle body language. It's a way to break free from those automatic judgments and reactions that we often have.
So it's about creating space for like deeper understanding and connection in our relationship.
Precisely. And mindfulness can be incredibly helpful when we're dealing with those difficult emotions that inevitably come up in life.
Like anger, sadness, grief.
Yes, anxiety, jealousy.
Yeah, all those fun things.
The whole spectrum.
So instead of trying to like push those feelings away, what does he suggest we do?
Nhat Hanh encourages us to actually meet them with mindful awareness.
That sounds hard.
It can be.
Yeah.
It's much more natural to want to avoid uncomfortable feelings.
It is.
But by acknowledging those feelings without judgment or resistance, we can learn to work with them.
So how do we do that?
He uses this beautiful analogy of a mother cradling a crying baby. Instead of getting angry or frustrated, she holds the baby gently and with compassion.
So we can learn to treat ourselves with that same kindness and understanding?
Yes. And this doesn't mean letting those emotions control us. It means giving ourselves the space to feel them without getting totally swept away. And as we get more comfortable with our own emotional landscape, we build resilience and inner strength.
It's like building up an emotional muscle.
It is. So we can handle whatever life throws at us.
Mindfulness can even help us make a real difference in the world around us beyond just our personal relationships.
Absolutely. Thich Nhat Hanh talks about engaged Buddhism.
Okay, I've heard that term before. But I'm not exactly sure what it means in practice.
It highlights how interconnected everything is. And the importance of working towards social justice and peace. Mindfulness helps us see the suffering in the world more clearly. And that motivates us to act with compassion, to try to ease that suffering.
So it's about taking action.
It is. It's not just sitting on the meditation cushion.
It's about going out and doing things.
Exactly. It's about engaging in actions that are both skillful and compassionate.
Okay, like what kind of things?
So things like speaking out against injustice. Supporting organizations that are working for positive change, or simply treating everyone you encounter with kindness and respect.
It's about those little acts of kindness that can make a difference.
Absolutely. Even small acts of kindness can ripple out and have a much wider impact than we realize.
He reminds us that true peace starts within each of us.
It does.
And as we cultivate inner peace through mindfulness, we naturally radiate that peace outward, influencing our relationships,
our communities, and ultimately the world.
It's like planting a seed of mindfulness.
Beautiful image.
That grows into this amazing garden of compassion.
And it brings us to the essence of Thich Nhat Hanh's teachings. Mindfulness isn't just a collection of techniques. It's a way of life. It's a path to becoming more aware, more compassionate, and more wise.
It's about waking up to the miracle of this present moment.
It is, right here, right now.
And recognizing the interconnectedness of all beings.
Absolutely. So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the key takeaway for our listeners?
I think for me, it's realizing that mindfulness isn't some abstract concept. It's like a powerful tool for transforming your life.
It is.
Your relationships and the world around you.
It's about bringing more awareness to everything you do. From enjoying a simple cup of tea to navigating a challenging conversation.
It's about realizing that every moment is a precious opportunity.
It is.
To wake up to the miracle of life.
The Thich Nhat Hanh said it so beautifully. Mindfulness is the miracle by which we master and restore ourselves.
So inspiring. So as we bring this episode to a close, what final words of wisdom do you have for our listeners?
I would just encourage you to take even one small step today to bring more awareness into your life.
Start with your breath.
Notice the sensations in your body.
Pay attention to your thoughts and emotions.
Listen deeply to the world around you.
And remember, even in the midst of all the busyness and chaos, there's always a place of stillness inside of you.
Place of peace, clarity, and wisdom.
It's always there.
Just breathe.
And be present.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into mindfulness.
May your journey be filled with peace, joy, and a sense of awakening.
Until next time, be well.